Welcome to the Busy Pastor Podcast. My name is Greg Gibson. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Trent Stewart, the lead pastor at Foothills Church. And today we are continuing our conversation on leading volunteers. Episode 23 of the Busy Pastor Podcast. Thank you so much to everyone who continues to listen to the Busy Pastor Podcast. Welcome to all of our new listeners. We are continuing our conversation on volunteers and a volunteer strategy and leading volunteers in the life of our church. So Trent, we talked all last episode about recruiting and onboarding. So let's talk about training and equipping volunteers. And so let's begin with just the high level overview. What does that look like at Foothills Church?
So we talked about kind of that recruiting part, and then we talked about, okay, when someone comes and says, yes, I am ready to serve, what do you do? And so for us, that first contact would lead to then a vision meeting, and that would be a 20 to 30 minute conversation, overview of the ministry, getting to know them a little bit, handing them the ministry packet. The ministry packet outlines what they're doing, time, the commitment that they're giving, when it starts, when it ends, qualifications, some skills that they need to have. All of that is kind of in that ministry packet. They take that, they fill it out. We'll do background checks and necessary ministry. So if you're going to be a shepherd, if you're going to be in kids ministry, student ministry, you're going to get a background check. And then once they fill that out, background check comes out, good. Now they go to what we would call first look. And the first look is a behind the scenes tour of the ministry. So if it's student ministry, they come on Wednesday nights, and the coach, not a pastor, so the coach is a volunteer. The coach will take them on that tour and show them this. The coach would walk them through what shepherding looks like. The coach would walk them through what production looks like or whatever it is, and give them that first look of okay, this is what it is behind the scenes. And from there, we have, this is all, leaning on the coach, leaning on the ministry director, giving thumbs up as they talk to other ministry leaders and coaches about this person. Hey, is this person going to be good? Is this person skilled? Is this person a good fit? Okay. All right, now if that person gets the go ahead, okay, we need you on the team. We want you on the team. You're going to be best suited for this team, and we don't need to direct them into a different lane. Now they go through the training. And so the training is ongoing, but one of the first things that they do is what we call Basics Level 1. And Basics Level 1 are going to be 2 to 3 videos that they watch on their own time. That gives them exactly what the title is, the basics. Right? Here's what you need. We've already taken you through the first look. We've already taken you through kind of the behind the scenes. Now, this is the basics of what you need. And so, these are anywhere from, 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops training about that specific area. Okay. After we know when they watch the video, it kind of clicks and it notifies that they've done that. Now they come to what we call their first serve. This is their first service opportunity for this potential volunteer to shadow a group of people. And so as they are shadowing, they are learning, we are getting to know them better. They're under a more seasoned volunteer. So now that person is showing them exactly how to do this. And, for 2 Sundays, this volunteer is helping this person understand what it looks like. And so as they do that, they're learning and they are getting everything that they need to know on those first couple of days. After that, then they have what we call their first serve debrief. And so this is, after a few days, the ministry director or the coach will then reach out to them, debrief them on, hey, 30-minute, how'd it go? What do you think? What'd you learn? What do you not like, or what did you see, or whatever it is, and they have a debrief of their experience. And if that goes well, now all of a sudden, now it's official. We've had plenty of hoops that they've jumped through. We've seen them work. Our ministry leaders have seen them. The people they're serving with have seen them. That's kind of the last step. And if everybody's given a thumbs up at that point, now they're scheduled then to serve for their first time. And so then they're released to do that. Of course, after they've watched that basics level 1 to kind of equip them. And so by that point, they have their application, their background check has cleared. They've completed the videos. All that has happened. So now we're ready for that. Hey, welcome to the team. And this is when we really expect you to serve. And they go for it. And then every ministry has ongoing classes and ongoing training. So whether it's once a month, sometimes it's a Zoom call that they do, sometimes it's in person, but it's always ongoing on-the-job training. So their coach is training them every single Sunday. Every time that they are serving, the coach is there to say, hey, you're doing this, don't forget to do this, and hey, let's make sure this. And so that's ongoing all the time.
Yeah, and what you're hearing is the process. You're hearing the process for how we at Foothills recruit, onboard, and then train volunteers. But what I want you to see there is that it's in relationship.
All relational.
So you might be hearing that and be like, oh my goodness, it's checkbox after checkbox after checkbox. But remember what you just said a moment ago, Trent. There is a coach walking with them through this whole process. There's debriefs, after the fact, maybe with the coach or the ministry director. There's opportunities, to be asking questions, to be learning. I mean, it's very relational.
Yeah, and through that relationship and through these steps, you might think, well, man, I need volunteers now. I can't wait. That's going to take 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks for all that to happen. And I would just say, if you take your time through this process, then the ones that make it through will stick, and they'll be healthier and they'll be better than if you're just trying to gather a bunch of people and get it done. So you kind of, to get it going, you have to just suck it up and soldier up and just say, okay, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be rough, guys. Yeah. We're going to have to just, Band-Aid this and work our way through it until we can really start training, recruiting, and getting the right people onboarded into this place.
Yeah. Some of the pushback that I've heard in a heavier process-driven kind of volunteer strategy is that, man, there's too many hoops to jump through. By the time they start and by the time they end, the momentum's gone, yada, yada, yada. But at Foothills, we've seen quite the opposite. And you mentioned a moment ago, it helps people get in their right design, or you mentioned that last episode. Yeah. But what I've also seen over and over again is that when people commit to the process, they love it. They are excited about it. They are thankful for it because we are showing intentionality. We're showing we have a plan, not only for Foothills, but for their design, for their growth, for an opportunity for them to use the gifts that God has given to them. And I mean, 10 times out of 10, it's never here, oh man, another thing to do. No, it is always, here are the 3 or 4 things you got to do. And everyone's very thankful, appreciative, and even, I mean, sometimes blown away by the intentionality that we're putting on our environments. And so a question about basics: does every ministry have the same basics, level 1, or is it different for each one?
Yeah, it's all different, and that's just because what production or music needs is different from what kids needs, and so it's that person that's actually doing that basic level training and deciding what are the basics that they need to have. And so, in some of our ministries, all of this is completed and done. Just so guys listening aren't too overwhelmed. Like, some of our ministries have all of those videos done and they're polished and they're beautiful. And some of them, they're still working on them. Right. And so that's okay. We're in process too. We haven't arrived by any stretch of the imagination. And so some of our ministries are still working on that stuff, and that's fine. And as we develop new ministries or just get better in ministries, we redo those or upgrade those. And so, they're all going to be different.
Yeah. So when we talk about now onboarding and moving into kind of training and equipping volunteers here at FC, what else are we doing to
Yeah.
equip volunteers
Right.
here in our church culture?
So now you're moving into the accountability part of the volunteer system, because, we all know that once somebody starts, there are potentially going to be issues about how they're performing. And so just because they're a volunteer doesn't mean that they can just show up and do whatever they want. We still need them to be faithful to their calling, to be faithful to God. We want them to make sure they're actually doing ministry and doing it the way that is healthy and that we want. And so that accountability is important. And so let's just, as an example, you might have somebody commit, to be on the team, and then they don't show up, on Sunday. What do you do? Well, the first thing that we don't want to do is get angry and assume that they're just bad people. I think the first thing we want to do, because it's all about relationships, is we want to maybe assume that what's going on, like maybe something heavy is happening and maybe something that, they're really dealing with. And so if they don't let us know and they just flat out don't show up, that's hardcore. Like usually you'll have a volunteer tell you, hey, I can't come, or they don't, they communicate through planning centers, what we use. So usually, sometimes that might be on Saturday night, which is terrible to find out that, they're not going to be here tomorrow. But if they don't, or if they just don't show up, like, obviously the coach is going to call them. The coach is going to have a conversation with them. That's like step one. The coach will respond within that week, that 7-day period, to say, hey, what happened? Where were you at? Or, why did you, if we didn't find out from an email or whatever, why did you cancel so late? Okay, let's get the story. Let's evaluate the story. Let's see what happened. And then encourage them, hey, make sure you tell us before Saturday. Hey, make sure if you're going to do this, you can't just not show up. So they have that conversation. Then if it were to happen again, like they didn't show up or they canceled late, or whatever the situation is. At that point, now a staff member, the ministry director, needs to get involved, and they're going to have that meeting and just kind of, why is this happening? What's going on? Let's talk about this. How can we help you? What are you missing? Those kinds of things. And if something were to happen again, now you're going to, whoever that person is reporting to, that's going to be a pastor now, is going to be stepping into that and reaching out to that person as like a third step. Right. And then after that step, if the person still isn't showing up or still just isn't accomplishing, then it's just time to remove that person. But, you don't want to just remove somebody immediately. You really want to dive in. Something's happening, something's going on. Let's walk with this person. You want to give them a couple of chances to really get better, grow through, help them in some way. But at some point, if they're not doing it, you've got to officially say, hey, this isn't the right ministry for you. And you got to let them know that. And that can be hard, that can be tough, but that's what accountability is all about.
Yeah, and you want to do that in relationship.
Absolutely.
Again, going back to never sending the email, never send the text message. And if you're walking the process and you're having these conversations, and that it is only going to serve not only your church, but it's going to serve them.
Yeah. And part of that too, we talk about accountability. You mentioned, what are the training? What else are we doing to train? So we have that initial basics in every area of our church right now. We are currently working on basics level 2 and 3. So our goal is to have 2 and 3 moving and up and running this year, so that people can get more training at home. Because one of the things the pandemic really taught us is that, hey, we can do more stuff online. It's okay to do that. Right. Let people do it on their own time. When you have an in-person meeting anyway, even before the pandemic, you didn't get 100% attendance anyway because people are just busy. And so for us, we're moving more in that direction. And so moving more in the direction of online training and requiring that basics 1, basics 2, and then it will be basics 3. But then the in-person's not going away. Like, we still gather for what we call team night. And team night are ministry specific areas. And so what we do is we want those specific areas to have those team nights where they're gathering, doing specific training for those areas. And so that might be twice a year that they come together for their ministry specific area. to do that training. That's important. And then the other thing that we want to do as an entire church is what we call team conference. And so that team conference is what we do at the beginning of the year. In January, just rally everybody together who serves in whatever ministry. I cast some vision. We worship together. We do some fun stuff. We appreciate them. That's team conference. And so team nights are ministry specific. They gather for training. Team conference is everybody. And then the coaches do what we call leadership tables. And so the coaches are going to get together with their ministry director, and they're usually going to do that at least 3 to 4 times a year, so once a quarter. And that's going to has lately been on Zoom. And obviously the reason has been the pandemic, but it's been working really good because they do it at night, usually when the kids go to bed around 9 o'clock or 8:30, and so they all get on Zoom. This is a smaller group of people, maybe 8 to 10 people. The ministry director is then pouring into the coaches in that quarterly meeting, hearing from them, what are issues, how can we get better, giving some training, and those kinds of things.
Yeah, Business 101 is what can we automate, delegate, or eliminate, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, basics, the onboarding training, I mean, that can be something that we can automate. Mm-hmm. We're never going to automate or delegate relationships. The whole process, we're going to be in that. Mm-hmm. And then it allows us to kind of move into this last stage, which is appreciation.
Yeah.
We're going to constantly be in relationship, mm-hmm. so that we can appreciate. How are we teaching that here?
Yeah, that has to be systematized so that you can make sure that you do it. We do it through Planning Center, and so that helps us automate it. It gives us reminders and emails, and then when we accomplish tasks or when our people accomplish it, they're checking that box, and then it's showing us that, hey, they did that. And so, appreciation comes in many different forms, and I think at the basic level, thank you cards is an important thing. So just handwritten thank you cards from staff, from coaches saying, hey, thank you for what you're doing. A lot of times too, we give them maybe a little gift card, for this or for that. And so that's in the process. And usually what we do after that first 90 days of somebody serving is that $5 gift card to get a donut or get coffee or something like that, just to say, hey, thanks for serving. And then also that phone call from that staff member saying, hey, thanks for stepping in. How's it going? After that 90 days is important. But every single ministry has their own kind of unique way that they appreciate their people. Because, every ministry is different. Kids ministry is different from media and production, but everybody has that system of where, okay, that card is coming consistently, that phone call is coming consistently, that small gift card is coming from time to time. And so you want to make sure your people feel appreciated. At our team conference, that once a year gathering, that is a night of appreciation for mm-hmm. all of our people. And so for me, it's teaching our staff to, hey, make sure you guys are appreciating our people and loving on them. And so I'm pushing and challenging and encouraging them to do that. And then, they have their system to accomplish that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. The celebration culture is a great culture to be a part of, right? Celebration culture can be a contagious culture, when it comes to leadership. And so for volunteers, we need to be celebrating them. I mean, once you pay them, they're no longer by definition a volunteer. Yeah. So the gift cards, the thank you notes. And I heard a pastor one time kind of challenge other pastors to write 10 to 20 ways in your context, like you mentioned a moment ago, that you can celebrate your volunteers or mm-hmm. appreciate your volunteers. And I think that's good. So important, because I think a great leader is a great celebrator, right? He's always looking kind of head up, not just at mm-hmm. where we're going with the mission, but man, how are we getting there, and how are we keeping the troops with me?
Well, and that's a challenge in and of itself, isn't it? Because when you are leading, oftentimes it is head down, running full speed. And so, we do have to be able to step back and say, man, thank you. We
Yes.
truly, genuinely appreciate you. And, the pastors that I know, they do appreciate their staff. They do appreciate their volunteers. But so often we're so busy with getting our sermon done. We're so busy with, thinking about the next thing that's happening that, we don't. And so it's just part of, I think, a healthy culture, just to be reminded to do that and to be thankful towards people. And you probably feel appreciation different than maybe I do, and that's also challenging because everybody kind of has their own way. One of our staff members, if I gave them a gift card to Starbucks, he would vomit because he hates Starbucks coffee. And so, you can't it's not always a one size fits all.
Right.
If I gave you a Krispy Kreme, gift card, you would be thankful.
I would love it.
You would love it.
Yeah, for sure. My kids would love it.
Your kids would love it. But if I gave you a gift card to, a nice steakhouse, that's next level.
It's next level. I would love with a capital L.
You would love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and you just have to know your staff and you want your coaches to know your people too.
And it goes back to being in relationships.
Absolutely.
Like you got to know them.
Yeah.
And that is discipleship. That's when we know our staff is healthy, our church is healthy. And man, as Christians too, we have the most to celebrate. So let's end there, right? We were once dead in our sin and we're now alive in Christ. And even here at the Busy Pastor, we have a lot to appreciate. Episode 23, and we're thankful for you, Pastor, who's listening and walking with us in this process. And we're celebrating you and encouraging you, equipping you along the way to be busy with the right things. Thank you for listening to the Busy Pastor podcast. As we close today's episode, we want to invite you to do a few things. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Busy Pastor. And secondly, if you like today's episode, subscribe to the Busy Pastor and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more resources, you can join the Busy Pastor community by going to busypastor.org. Fill out the form with your email address, and you will get more resources, show notes, and even questions for your team. Next week, we are continuing our conversation on being busy, but being busy leading our team. The Busy Pastor podcast is produced by Andrew Lindstrom, video production Jake Tipton, audio engineer Brian Papik, music by Brandon Sharp, and graphics by Zach Shaddix. See you next week. Until then, let's be busy with the right things. Thank you so much for tuning into our YouTube page. Hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and don't forget to comment below.
New episodes come out every Thursday. For more content and to join the Busy Pastor community, visit busypastor.org.